Last time I told you I didn't really like periodontics as a topic in dental school, that it took a residency afterwards, a one-year practice residency, to enable me to see the effects and responses of periodontal treatment that really enabled me to appreciate the whole process. It wasn't that then became my favorite topic in dentistry. I don't think I really had one over another. And in fact, my life story is that I am the son of an endodontist. And an endodontist is a specialist in root canals. My dad went back to school. He went to Loma Linda University, as did I. I went undergrad for dental school. He went years earlier to going through their graduate program of 2 years in order to become an endodontist. This was at a time in the city in which we grew up. Think of it as a town. It was actually a city. Small city near San Diego called El Cajon, California. And there were no endodontists in El Cajon at the time my dad went off for his additional training. He'd already been a dentist, I believe, 25 years before he decided to go back to school. And the reason he did was because he felt that that was the best way to really know a subject deeply, was to continue to go into more and more detail and depth. And he also found physically that it's a very difficult thing being a dentist. It was back then. A lot of the work was done standing up still. We were by the time I was a dentist or going into dental school, four-handed dentistry is what we called it, and that's sitting down and having an assistant sitting across from you and passing instruments, and you're performing procedures four-handed. But that's not the only way that dentistry is done. And prior to that, he was doing a lot of work standing up, and that can be hard on the back. And that's one of the reasons he thought, well, root canals are not that taxing on my body. I believe I can do this. And so he thought he could extend his career, life expectancy of the career, by specializing. And so, and that's really how we got involved with Loma Linda University, was that my dad was the first one to experience it. He liked it so much that he advised his children to consider going there. And I have two brothers who went through the medical school at Loma Linda, and I have a sister who graduated from dental school 3 years after me. So all four of us, there are 4 kids in the family, all 4 of us ended up at Loma Linda, and 2 in medicine and 2 in dentistry. So we all took our dad pretty seriously and followed his instructions. We were kind of compliant in that regard, I think. And my thinking while I was in the Air Force, I did not plan to stay. I planned to complete my requirements because I had gotten a scholarship that allowed me to go through dental school on an Air Force scholarship. And so for that reason, I went on active duty and decided that I would take the 1-year additional training program, which frankly kept me out of going on a remote assignment. I'd just been married and had a child, and I didn't want to go to Turkey by myself or Korea, South Korea, for a year. And so they said, well, a lot of people are going into these 1-year residency programs. We recommend you do that. And I decided that was a better plan. And as it turned out, it was an absolutely extraordinarily good thing for me to do. It simply doubled my experience in dentistry in 1 year of the previous 4 years. And so I'm forever grateful for having gone to that program. but I was still going to get out and go be with my dad and practice, and I wanted to specialize in endodontics to do that with him. And I was overseas after the residency training and got word that my dad decided to suddenly retire because he'd begin to have heart problems and decided that it was enough. And so he retired before I had made a decision as to what specialty I was going to apply for in the Air Force. And I have to back up a little bit to say at that time I was doing a lot of periodontics and I wasn't doing any endodontics. And the reason for that had to do with a long hallway in the clinic in which we were assigned in Germany. I got there with a friend of mine who had graduated from the same residency program, both of us at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, Bossier City, Louisiana, near Shreveport. We had both been assigned to the same clinic in Germany because they needed people to cover some of the specialties. They had a number of general dentists and they had one prosthodontist, but they didn't have anybody else. And the colonel in charge said, I need somebody to do the endodontics and I need somebody to do the periodontics. And he had assigned us rooms, and my room happened to be 50 yards away from the x-ray machine that you need when you're doing root canals. This is back when we didn't do it like I do it right now with digital radiography, and it's just like holding a little camera. That thing had a special room dedicated to the x-ray machine mounted on the wall, and I'm sure all of you patients have seen those, and they're still common. The one in the clinic was huge and bulky. And the other thing about it is if you're doing root canals, you have to put files in to a person wearing a rubber dam which isolates the tooth, and no one wants to walk up a long hallway to go to an x-ray and back. So it was that my friend took on the part of being the endodontist for the clinic, and I ended up being the periodontist for the clinic. And it was in that process of having a lot of different patients with periodontal disease that I treated that I really began to like what I was doing. But that still didn't mean I was going to go into periodontics. And in fact, my first application for specialty training was in oral surgery. And I was talked out of that by the oral surgeons that I went to interview with, in that they essentially reminded me that that's a move back into medicine, and I'd already decided when I went to dental school that I wasn't going to medical school. They are different, and we could talk about that another time, how different dental school and medical school are and how it affects the people who are trained, which I think is an interesting topic, one I'd love to talk about. But anyway, I went in there, got talked out of that, and decided, I really do love periodontics. Periodontics for me had the technical things, surgical things that I love to do. So doing surgical procedures is an interest to me. But also I like the academics. I like the fact that it's an area of study that goes back into the basic sciences and research, and that it is an area that's continually growing and expanding in the area of knowledge. And I hope I can provide some of that to you, of the things that are coming about, that we've discovered and are learning about as we get on to more and more topics going forward. And I've just gone over 10 minutes, so thanks a lot.